Okay. Hello, everybody.
Hi,
Welcome to the Macaw Podcast universe.
I'm Jordan Macaw.
I'm Micah Macaw.
This is the podcast that exists to prove people wrong when they say sequels are...
Sequels are never better than the original.
We've been doing this for a long time.
I never get to say that
Oh, okay.
part. So, we are now presenting what was voted upon by you. As Bane would say on that field and on the football field as he's about to kill the nuclear physicist, he would say, "Given to you, the people." So you, the people, chose this.
So this last year, people chose Fast and Furious, right?
No,
We chose it because people requested it so much.
Yeah, I believe Star Wars was the
Right.
chosen series.
Right.
But this year it is X-Men. And if you're going like, wait a second, but there's X-Men, and then there's new X-Men, and then there's new Mutants, and here's the deal.
Do we have to watch that movie?
Here's the deal. It is 13 movies. We got X-Men, X2, X-Men United, X-Men, The Last Stand, X-Men Wolverine. We have The Wolverine. We got Deadpool. We got X-Men First Class, X-Men Days of Future Past. We got X-Men Apocalypse. We got X-Men Dark Phoenix. We got, I think I already said The Wolverine. We got Logan. We got Deadpool 2, and we got the New Mutants.
Did you say that in order?
No, I messed up in the middle because I kind of forgot the order.
How do you feel knowing all of the titles?
I feel like I am, like, I guess maybe I'm better than most people.
Oh, yeah, that's one way you can look at it, I guess.
No, we're going to be diving in pretty thoroughly. So the X-Men are very cool characters. I like X-Men
Apparently.
comics. I've read quite a bit of them. I do sort of know what I'm talking about. I'm not crazy about X-Men comics, but
What don't they do for you that Spider-Man does?
well, Spider-Man is everyone, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone relates to him, and I relate to that.
So you don't relate to X-Men in that way, in the same way.
I do, but you know, X-Men are classically like usually an allegory for like groups of people that
Yeah.
have been
Marginalized.
segregated or marginalized. So like throughout time, a lot of times people would assign them to like kind of an allegory for like maybe the Black experience or any sort of like non-white experience.
Yeah.
And then I think now there's a lot of like sexual orientation kind of stuff is what a lot of the comics
Yeah.
now are kind of about. Like they're still superhero comics,
Of
but that's
course.
like the
No,
allegory.
Yeah. It's pretty. It's hard not to think of those kinds of themes,
Yeah.
especially with this series.
Yeah. So and
I mean, especially with the opening scene of this movie.
exactly. Yeah. And while I think those themes are like incredibly powerful, and I think that's why the X-Men are awesome. I don't actually I don't experience that kind of I don't have that experience of
Yeah.
being like not the most privileged, I guess.
Yeah.
So I guess on a relational level, that's why I relate to Spider-Man more.
Yeah.
But I mean, you don't have to relate to something to enjoy it.
No, I know.
But to answer your question, I think
Yeah.
that's why. But the big thing was there is Chris Claremont is one of the pillars of comic writing, and he wrote the definitive X-Men saga.
And what years are we talking about?
We're talking about, I believe, the late 70s and like most of the 80s.
Okay.
And the guy he still writes X-Men sometimes. The guy is a nut in a good way. I would guess maybe like anywhere from 60 to 100 of his issues. And even though it's like the X-Men run, I wasn't crazy about it.
Oh.
I'm not, I think I don't really love his writing style.
Okay.
Because there's just a lot of just kind of random stuff that happens and isn't really explained. It's almost like
side stuff.
No, to me, it's more like you know, superhero shows up and they do something that was impossible And then we're like, oh, yeah, that's because they have this new power or something. And it's like, huh? You didn't like set that up to
or
me.
they didn't earn it or something. Yeah.
But I realize that that's like what I'm saying is like sacrilegious.
Oh.
To not like Chris Claremont X-Men, but I wouldn't go so far as to say I don't like it.
Just not your favorite.
Yeah, but there's definitely, like, for example, the X-Men Days of Future class, there's like, or Days of Future Past, those first, I believe it's just 2 issues. Incredible. Incredible. I think the other really famous run is the Dark Phoenix run.
Right, that apparently they botched.
Yeah, they adapt it twice in this series, and I actually didn't find it all that good. I thought it was not that good.
Oh, the run?
Yeah, it was not that exciting to me.
Is the storyline she's like the most powerful X-Man, and then like basically both sides are trying to, I'm assuming, the good guys are trying to protect her, the bad guys are trying to use her, and she gets pulled in all these different directions and is like, stop trying to get me to bend to your wills. I'm Dark Phoenix. And then she like destroys the world.
Yeah, I mean, basically.
Yeah.
I'm it's been probably over a year since I read it, and it is much different than the movies.
Oh, okay.
Well, actually, I haven't seen the recent adaptation that they did because we'll get into the history of our experience with these movies. But I just don't think I don't find it to be the most exciting comic run I've ever read. But I think most people would put it in a top, at least for Marvel, if you're just doing Marvel stuff. But I think there's just
it twice.
Something about it that just doesn't totally work for me in those classic runs. But there is a Grant Morrison run, I believe, and I think it's in the early 2000s, and it's like 100 issues, and that is amazing. Yeah. And I loved that. I plowed through.
How many are there?
I think there's 100, and I read that in like a month. Like I was just reading that like crazy. Maybe more than a month, but that one was really great. It was a little bit more mature, but not in a
Deadpool way or a Joker way.
Not in a Joker movie way. Yeah. It was more like, okay, this is just like, a little more graphic.
This is PG-13.
Yeah. But I definitely like X-Men, and if someone's like, "Oh, there's this new run and it's so good," I'm not gonna not want to watch it.
Do you want to know my experience with X-Men comics? None.
You might actually like it better than me though.
The comics.
Yeah.
Okay.
You just might, because I think, but I think some of the characters are just awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Nightcrawler freaking rules. Who doesn't love Wolverine?
Yeah.
I do think Jean Summers is awesome. I like Scott Summers, or Jean Grey, I mean. But one thing I found interesting is, because I read the comics after I had seen a lot of these movies, and Xavier is just written a lot different. And I like...
Is that the Evan Peters character?
No, that is Charles Xavier.
Oh, whoops. I should have known that.
I didn't pronounce it right. Xavier.
Yeah.
He is... I like him much better in the movies, because he's kind of a jerk, at least in the Claremont run.
Wait, sorry. That's the Sir Patrick Stewart character?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I like... What's interesting about this series is, like, I think Patrick Stewart brought his own thing.
He's a jerk in the comics?
He's kind of a jerk. Like,
really? Does he like belittle because he runs the school and stuff? Does he like belittle people?
Well, I don't know how much of it is just reading something from the 80s and the 70s.
And he's an authority figure.
Yeah, where it is just kind of like he's just like bossing people around in a way that's like if you read the early Fantastic Four, Mr. Fantastic is also just like a total jerk, because he's just like, I know everything. Do this, do that, do this, do that, and Xavier is kind of written that way as well.
Sounds like a fun time.
Yeah. But I think what's interesting, too, is Mr. Fantastic, he's grown a lot, but he still has that. But now it's more intentional, I think, rather than like, this is just how we write male characters that are smart. Now it's like, no, he's still like a bossy pants, but there's more depth to it than that.
Bossy pants.
Hashtag
bossy pants.
But,
so how many movies have you seen?
I stopped watching them after First Class.
Which is the James McAvoy, Michael Fassbender one.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
But after First Class, I have seen both Deadpools and I've seen Logan. But that is it.
Yeah.
I have not seen any others.
Okay, this might surprise some people. I have seen every single movie, and this is my favorite franchise of all time. Psych! I have seen 3 movies. No. I think I've seen the first 3 when I was in college. My friend Hannah loves X-Men, loves Hugh Jackman. I mean,
yeah, who doesn't? We love
what
Hugh
person
Jackman.
doesn't, especially a female. And so she found out that I hadn't seen any of them and was like, "Well, we're watching all of them now," and we were gonna watch them all on her laptop. So I've seen
That's
the
great
first
viewing.
3 on a laptop. That's primetime college town, baby.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why we fell off. Maybe because I wasn't enjoying it.
Yeah.
But
have you seen X-Men Origins Wolverine?
What's that one?
That's the one where Wolverine becomes Wolverine.
No. I've seen...
Oh, man.
I'm pretty sure I've only seen the first 3.
Hey, but you've seen
I've seen Logan.
Deadpools
I've
and
seen
Logan.
both Deadpools and I've seen Logan. And yeah, not looking forward to rewatching Deadpool 1 and 2 because I just feel like that's so dated, but we'll get into it.
Yeah.
But I do love Logan, and I am looking forward to watching that again because I think I've only seen it the one time.
I've only seen it once.
And I really liked it. It was like, and I hope I feel the same way watching it again, that it's a type of like seriousness and grittiness of a superhero movie that like no one can figure out how to do besides James Mangold. That one time he did it. Is it James?
Yeah, it is.
If that makes sense.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah, I think that movie like works in that it's, you know, it goes rated R and stuff, but it felt fine. It didn't feel. I hate to just keep bringing up Joker all the time because I don't like talking about it, but it didn't feel like that where it's just like such a like we have to do this rated R like macho thing because this is cool.
Yeah,
it did feel like that was more like this is what the story is demanding of this character. And he's old and he's rigid and like Patrick Stewart is dying. You know, it just felt like it's a more mature thing. So that's what we're going to do.
But we got a long way to go before we get to that one.
I know. That's like, what, 10 down the line or something like that?
My experience with X-Men, besides what I just said too, is like when they were coming, I mean, this first one came out in 2000. So I definitely like, one, wouldn't have interest in seeing it as like a first grader or something. But I also feel like I wouldn't have been allowed to watch it.
Yeah.
You know, which I'm kind of assuming is the trend for the first couple movies of why I've never seen them until later. And
I got a funny story for X2 that I already told you, but I'll save it for next episode.
Cool. But yeah, I just think like I just never cared about it growing up. And then I just feel like I mostly hear from people that they suck. Like whenever the new movie comes out, comes out, it sucks. And I didn't know at the time that Deadpool came out that was an X-Men character. I just thought, you know, it's just a Marvel character that Disney doesn't own. But
well, I mean, he's an X-Men character in the way that like, you know, Hawkeye is an Avenger. It's like he's an Avenger when they need him to be.
But I didn't know that Ryan Reynolds was in X-Men movies.
Yeah,
I had no idea.
In a X-Men movie.
X-Men movie. So
in an
X-Men movie.
In an X-Men movie, yeah.
But yeah, I just don't it just feels like people often don't like them. It kind of feels a little bit like a Fast and Furious situation.
Yeah, well, I think that there is something to... I think people like the X-Men, and I think they like the idea of the X-Men.
But the movies never nail it.
Yeah, and I think that the movie... I do think... I will be surprised if X-Men 2 doesn't nail it. Because I think that movie is pretty well beloved, and I think that people like that movie a lot.
Okay. Who's the bad guy in that one?
I don't remember.
Oh, okay.
But I remember being like, that one was like good.
Yeah.
You know? But I think it's that kind of thing where it's like you always go and you're like, I'm disappointed, but I do like these characters, and hopefully they'll get it next time. I think that's kind of the mentality.
Yeah. And if anything, if we want to compare this to Fast and Furious or something, if this is how I kind of feel about the series, this makes more sense that they would make so many because there's so much source material.
Oh, yeah.
And there's like it's like evergreen. They're always going to have fans for it. Fast and Furious makes no effing sense. No. But we've talked about that.
We have, and we're going to talk about it again this year.
Yeah.
But yeah, So I saw this movie when I was a kid, but it was after they had made 3 of them already.
Okay.
But before they'd made X-Men Origins. So it would have been in middle school when I would have watched these movies.
Yeah.
And I liked it. By then, I'd already seen Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2. So I think I was like, okay, this isn't as cool, but it's good. But yeah, I liked it. And then when we watched it, that was the second time I've ever seen it.
Whoa. I guess me too.
And I've been,
besides TV,
as we've been getting closer to this, like I've been looking forward to watching these movies, these first 3, because I remember them fondly, and they are kind of a time capsule.
They are.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's silly to say that I didn't see this movie until college, although I definitely saw some of the, I would even say the first 3 clips on TV.
Yeah.
So, but I kind of have that same feeling of the Star Wars prequels.
Yeah.
Where, like, I'll only focus on this movie. Where it is because it was released in 2000. There's just something I'm like a tiny bit nostalgic for it. I think more for the time period than the movie. And so it is kind of like fun to watch, but then you get like 30 minutes in and I'm bored.
Yeah.
That's what it is to me.
And I think that so my take on this movie that we will explore is I do think it's good. I just think it's dated.
Same.
And I do think, and we'll be getting into this as we go along, I think in a lot of good ways, the MCU has perfected the formula that this movie creates.
Uh-huh.
But also that comes with a lot of cons in that, like, that's the formula. Like, this movie establishes the modern superhero formula.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so as far as, like, movie history, we have the Superman movies in the 70s, and those set up the formula. Batman, continues the formula, but those movies, all 4 of them are kind of wacky and insane in their own ways.
Yeah.
And I think that this movie comes out in 2000, and it's like, this is what we're going to do now for the next, I don't know. It's been 20 years. It's probably going to be 20 more years.
Are the Superman movies pretty sincere, or are they a little goofy?
Yeah.
They are?
Define that. What do you mean by that?
I mean, are they anything similar to Batman's wackiness?
No, they're very earnest.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh, and speaking of Superman, people probably already know this because we're recording this a bit ago, but James Gunn, runs DC now with his buddy Peter. I can't remember his last name.
What he shared today?
Yeah, that's what I was going to mention.
Okay.
They are moving forward, and it does sound like they are scrapping the DCEU, which means we can close the book on the DCEU.
Yeah.
And they are currently working on Superman.
Okay, but like not with Henry Cavill.
And he has confirmed that Henry Cavill will not star in the movie.
Wow. I bet that's a bummer for the actor.
He posted about it, and he is bummed, but he understands.
Okay.
Is what his post said.
Okay.
His
what his
screen cap,
tweeted.
his screen cap of his notes app says that. Oh, I love it. I don't know why people do that.
It's because there's not enough characters.
But that is really exciting to me because as much, I mean, I really like Henry Cavill, and it sucks that he hasn't had a chance to be in a good movie as Superman. I mean, the best movie he's in as Superman is Shazam, when his chest is shown at the end of the movie when he shows up at the high school. And I don't even know if that's Henry Cavill.
At the beginning of the movie?
At the end of the movie.
But when
they go to the cafeteria.
Oh.
Shazam?
Oh. Yeah.
Not Justice League.
That's what I'm thinking of.
So he's only been in one good movie, and that could have been a stunt double.
Yeah.
So that's a bummer for him, and I think he's really good for it.
Who's it gonna be though?
Yeah, I don't know, but
better get a good jawline. That to me, that is integral. Is that how you say it?
Integral, yeah.
Superman.
Yeah,
so you gotta have a good jawline. Gotta have a good chin.
I have no doubt that James Gunn is gonna make something really special.
Yeah.
Because also, it's like, oh, well, James Gunn can be really irreverent and stuff like that. But he is one of the few, like, franchise film directors that really matches the tone.
Mm-hmm.
And he knows that we've done this dark, edgy Superman. And he's going to be like, no, people need what I've been asking for ever since we started covering DC, like, a year and a half ago. We need an earnest kind Superman
Yeah.
who stands for truth, justice, and the American way, as it is, colloquially referred to.
So I know.
So that's exciting
yeah,
to me.
I know I asked you this a while ago, but this means, but the movies that are slated to come out are still going to come out, right?
As far as we know, this year they are still going to be coming out with Aquaman 2.
Mhm.
That is like in the bag. There's no reason for them not to put that out. Blue Beetle is apparently still happening.
Whatever that is.
Yeah. And then The Flash is still slated on schedule, but I really don't think it's going to come out.
No.
Now, especially with this change of leadership, I think they're just going to bury it. I really don't think they're going to release
Aquaman 1
that
made
movie.
a ton of money.
Yeah, it was the first $1 billion baby.
That's right.
Yeah, there's...
I am
yeah.
bummed.
And Shazam 2 is coming out.
That's
as
what
well.
I was thinking of.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am bummed about more than any of them. I am bummed about Aquaman and
I wanted
Jason Momoa
five
and Gal
Aquaman
Gadot.
movies.
Yeah.
I know, and I did want a third Wonder Woman movie, but
No one else does. So I guess they got to start over.
Yeah. So yeah, that's where we're at. They're definitely not making a Black Adam 2, which is great. We won't have to sit
so much
through more
money,
of that.
Micah. The Rock said so.
For those who are wondering, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, by the time this comes out, like 2 months ago, he posted an article that was a puff piece, basically, that said, like, where he's like, I talked to my financiers, and actually, Black Adam's going to make money, which is a terrible look. You don't see Tom Cruise posting after Maverick, like, this movie actually is going to make a lot of money.
According to my accountant.
Yeah. And then we find out that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson was the source of the article that was put out. And then a couple of people from Warner Brothers said the movie is not going to make money. And if your own company that produced it is like, no, movie's not going to make money, I can tell you what, they do not want to work with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson with this again.
Yeah.
So we don't have to sit through another Black Adam travesty. And good job on all of you who stayed home and didn't watch that movie.
Thank you.
Because you're the real heroes.
Yeah.
Much like Black Adam, you decided to murder instead of save. And you murdered that movie instead of saving it. And you were the real heroes. You're anti-heroes. So I'm over the moon about the biggest thing about James Gunn joining is the fact that I won't have to watch another Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson Black Adam movie.
Yeah.
That is more thrilling to me than the fact that I'm seeing Avatar 2 tonight.
Also, it's great that we don't have Ben Affleck anymore as Batman.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Come on.
And you know what's also funny, and I love about James Gunn, he shared an article where someone said that, like, James Gunn is looking to include Robert Pattinson's Batman into
For real?
the universe, and he reported it. He was like, you should probably check your source. That's not
I
a
missed
thing
the
that's
headline.
happening.
Okay, yeah.
So I don't think that he didn't necessarily say like, no, we're never gonna do that. But he's like, that's
He's
not
probably like, we
accurate.
haven't even got to Batman yet.
Really, his announcement made it sound like we're gonna make a Superman movie.
Yeah.
And I know he said they're getting like a 10-year slate ready, but I think that he understands, like, we have to make we need a movie that people like to start this whole thing. If we're gonna do a shared universe, we need to make a Superman movie that's good.
Mm-hmm.
So that is pretty exciting and has nothing to do with X-Men.
Mm-hmm.
So should we talk about X-Men?
Let's get into the actors first,
Okay, do it.
because I feel like it.
All right, take it away.
Sir Patrick Stewart plays Professor Charles Xavier. He not only is probably best known for this role, but he's also he is Picard from Star Trek Picard. I've not seen any of those. Have you?
I have seen the one with Tom Hardy in it, and it's really bad. Star Trek
Tom-
Nemesis, where he's the bad guy, and it almost got Tom Hardy to quit acting for life because he
When
had a
was
bad
that?
experience. I think like 2003 or 2005.
I didn't know Tom Hardy was in one of those.
Yeah, it's really bad.
Interesting.
Something to note about Sir Patrick Stewart.
Mm-hmm.
I think it is wild that we've done this podcast for a long time, and we're about to talk about X-Men, And yet we have already talked about Sir Patrick Stewart playing this character in another movie we've covered, which is Doctor Strange and the
Yep.
Multiverse of Madness. That is a
And
little
he
bit
like affects the
mind-bending.
plot. He does stuff in that movie.
Yeah. Just
It's
kind
not
of
just,
wild.
I feel like it's more than a cameo
Yeah.
because he's doing stuff.
Yeah. So anyway,
But
keep
yeah,
going.
that's all I'm going to talk about with him. I mean, Sir Patrick Stewart, he's been knighted.
Mhm.
And then Ian McKellen, is he a Sir?
Yeah, and
Sir,
we have
Sir
talked
Ian
about
McKellen.
him.
Oh yeah, he's Gandalf.
Yeah.
Okay, but we have not talked about Hugh Jackman.
No.
Okay, guys, just in case for anyone out there who doesn't know, he's Wolverine. But
Also, Jean Valjean.
gosh, I was getting there. But
I
yeah,
know, but
he's
I wanted to say it.
probably best known for Wolverine. But
He
yeah,
is best known for Wolverine,
yeah,
absolutely.
he is also in Les Mis. He's in The Greatest Showman, which apparently is like the best movie ever made, according to so many people who like freaking love that movie. And it's just so funny whenever someone finds out that I have not seen The Greatest Showman, they like freak out.
Yeah.
How would
I
you
just-
not watch a musical with Hugh Jackman in it?
I just know, like, when I saw that trailer, I was like, even if this is good, I know in my bones that I will not like this. This is not a movie made for Micah. And sometimes you have
Yeah.
to let those go.
You do. And I felt the same way. And you just can't do it all.
I don't need, like, really annoying, to me, pop songs.
I already have to watch so many movies I don't want to watch because of this podcast. I don't want to add another to the list. And then, how do you say her name?
Rebecca.
Well, Jean Grey.
Oh, is that Frankie
Famke Janssen. Famke. Famke.
Famke Jan?
That can't be how you say her name. Anyway, she plays Jean Grey. She is also in House on Haunted Hill, Dormouse, Long Slow Exhale, just a lot of movies.
I'm kind of surprised she hasn't been in much else big.
I
'Cause
think
I
she's
like
in a
her
lot
in
of
these
stuff you've not
movies.
seen.
Is that it? Okay.
That's my feeling on it.
Because I always really liked her in these. But I mean, I was younger. I don't know
Yeah,
how that's
she
going to...
consistently works.
Yeah, but I mean, the performances in this movie don't really pop to me anymore.
Yeah.
Although I do think there's 3 performances that are excellent. But yeah, anyway, go ahead.
James Marsden plays Scott Summers or Cyclops.
Uh-huh.
So does Jean Grey not have a X-Men name?
Yeah, she is...
Because on IMDb there's nothing.
Well, she becomes Phoenix. And
She does?
Yeah, that's the whole thing.
Okay, I don't know.
Let me look. I
So is
can't
that
remember.
the third movie? The third movie they do the Phoenix thing?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay. Anyway.
Wait, hang on. Let's see. Notable aliases. Marvel Girl. That's what she was like when they like made the comic book.
Phoenix is better.
And then she becomes Phoenix. But even throughout, she becomes Phoenix, then she becomes Dark Phoenix. And then there's other stuff. You know, every character has like 30 different things by now.
So does Wolverine always fall in love with Phoenix?
No.
Because I don't think that's part of it in the new movie.
No,
But I just know that these two characters get together.
Yeah, and I'm fuzzy on comic book wise. I think it works for this movie, these series of movies.
Yeah.
I think it totally works, but I don't remember how much that's in the comic.
I don't remember her being together with Scott Summers
Yeah.
at the beginning.
Well, one of her aliases is Jean Summers, so they definitely marry at one point.
In the comics?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. But yeah, James Marsden, he looked so funny to me, and not because of the goggles. He just looks so young.
Yeah.
But he is in Hairspray. He's also in Enchanted. He is in a Superman movie. He's in Superman Returns. He is in Dead to Me, Westworld, famously in Sonic.
Yeah. Getting his Sonic on, collecting those rings and fighting the Eggman.
Yep. But he plays him. He's just like a human in the
Yeah,
Sonic
I think he's
movie.
like the sheriff or something. Anyway, I haven't seen those.
Oh, he's in 27 Dresses too.
Of course.
Good performance.
Yeah. He's got to be in at least one romantic comedy.
He's in a couple. Come on.
Yeah.
Halle Berry plays Aurora
Roro.
Monroe or Storm.
Yeah.
Who I always thought looked so cool as a kid.
Yeah. Storm rocks.
She How have we not talked about Halle Berry?
Because she hasn't been in. Oh, we have actually in John Wick Chapter 3.
That's
we
true.
talked about her.
Great.
Should we? Well, maybe we'll talk about the performances as we go along.
Let's just do that.
Because it's kind of tough.
It's not great.
do you know? Before you get there, do you know who plays Toad?
I just saw it. His IMDb picture is Darth Maul.
Yeah, it's Ray Parker.
Didn't know that.
And can you look up? Is he an American? He's American, right? Because
he's British, English.
What?
He's Scottish. Wait, he's Scottish.
That's weird because it felt like the worst British accent I've ever heard in my life.
So bad. It felt like, this is what I said while we were watching it. They have this character Toad, which I asked Micah while we were watching it. Is it strange that they would put this character in this movie? And you said, you haven't read enough X-Men to really know for sure if it's a weird choice, but to you it felt like a weird choice to put Toad in X-Men.
It felt like okay, we're making a Spider-Man movie. Let's put the Rhino in the first movie, and it's like, Rhino's cool. We all like Rhino, but the first movie you put this guy in? No.
So with him being that's how it felt to me. Someone who has never read an X-Men comic.
He's a B or a C villain. He's not an A villain.
It really felt like that. And then to top it off with that, it felt like he was directed to act like he was one of the characters in Trainspotting. Because he's just really scuzzy and gross and cockney. Mm-hmm. And it just felt like someone was a fan of Trainspotting. Yeah. And that was their inspiration. It was pretty bad.
Very bad, yeah.
And he looked bad.
The accents in this movie are wild.
Let's talk about another one. Anna Paquin, who plays Rogue.
Yeah. She's like...
I'm assuming that character is from Mississippi.
I don't remember any mention of where she's from.
Okay. Woof on that. But she's an Academy Award-winning actress.
Yeah, and she's amazing in The Irishman.
She is. So she is an Academy Award-winning actress for The Piano, which I've still never seen.
I've never seen it.
It just, looking at the poster, just looks boring. It looks like an Oscar movie.
Come on. You got to watch some of those, though. It's on the 1001 Movies to See Before You Die book I got.
I mean, who made it again? It's made by, I don't know who that is. Oh, Jane Campion. I know.
Oh, it is? Oh, okay. That's Power of the Dog.
Yeah.
Oh, that actually makes me want to watch it.
It's just every time I see the poster, it's just rough.
Yeah.
Weird.
And she was like a little kid when she won that,
I think she is the youngest person to ever win an Oscar.
Really?
I think. She might have been like 11 or something.
Wow. She's awful in this movie.
She's so bad. Man, so she's also in The Squid and the Whale. She is in the show A Friend of the Family, A Bit of Light, Modern Love. She's been in a lot of stuff. And The Irishman.
Yeah. So as we're going to get into when I get into the production, though, we're going to talk about some of these actors and some of their bad performances. But as I was reading the production of this movie, I think it's a miracle that this movie is watchable, let alone good. I would believe that. So when I say, like, Halle Berry's terrible in this or Anna Paquin's terrible in this, take it with a grain of salt. It's probably not their fault.
Maybe consider that they were working on a Hostel set.
Yes.
Because they were.
And one thing that I'll mention about Rebecca Romijn, Mystique.
Okay.
You'll get mad about that one.
Oh, great.
Along with many others.
Get into the makeup stuff because that's what I wanted to know about.
Yep, it's about the makeup.
So next we have Tyler Mane, who plays Sabretooth. Man, this guy, I feel like this guy's makeup probably took an annoyingly long amount of time to apply just to his face.
Yeah.
He's also in Troy, Halloween 2.
Rob Zombie, Halloween 2.
Yeah. Dead North, Night's End, Joe Dirt. Ray Park, talked about him. Rebecca Romijn, who plays Mystique. She is also in Femme Fatale, Sleep No More, Strange New Worlds, which is a Star Trek thing. And a lot of sci-fi. She's also in Curb Your Enthusiasm, apparently.
Okay.
And then Bruce Davison plays Senator Kelly. This guy is like such a classic character actor to me. Because he's always doing the same thing, but he's nailing whatever he does for me.
Right. Okay.
He's also in The Crucible, Shortcuts, The Good Neighbor, The Lincoln Lawyer, Ozark, and the list goes on.
Okay. Because when I saw him, I'm like, I know this guy, and I know I've seen him in like 30 things, but I couldn't place any of them.
He's one of those people where I will look at his filmography and think, what is the one specific movie I'm trying to think of? And there never is one because he's in so many.
It's like osmosis. You just like consumed that actor. What's his name again?
It is Bruce Davison.
Bruce Davison. Okay. Is that all the actors you're hitting?
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
So now, here we go, folks. We're going to get into the production, and I am going to issue a bit of a warning because we're talking about a really awful director whose name is Bryan Singer, who has allegedly, but almost certainly, sexually assaulted a lot of people. And we're going to be talking about it a little bit. So if that's something that might trigger you or something, just skip ahead like 10, 20 minutes.
How many movies of this did he direct?
I think he did 2.
Okay.
So this and the next one. And then we will put him on the list of people we put in the He Who Shall Not Be Named category. But I kind of have to say his name throughout this. So he's not great, but we're going to talk about him. So he directed the movie. The screenplay is by David Hayter, who did X2 and Zack Snyder's Watchmen. The story is by Tom DeSanto. This is his only credit, and Bryan Singer. The cinematography is Newton Thomas Sigel, who did Cherry, Da 5 Bloods, Bohemian Rhapsody, Drive. Music is by Michael Kamen, who did Band of Brothers and Frequency. The movie comes out July 14th, 2000. Its budget was $75 million. It made $157 domestically and $296 worldwide.
Yeah, big hit.
So here's the fun stuff. Jerry Conway and Roy Thomas, who are 2 big comic book writers. Well, actually, one of them might be... No, I think they're both writers. They wrote a screenplay in 1984.
Wow.
For X-Men. For Orion Pictures. But it doesn't come through as Orion faces financial issues. And if you want to hear more about that studio, go to our episodes on Manhunter and Silence of the Lambs. Then in 89 and 90, Stan Lee and Chris Claremont work on an adaptation with James Cameron producing and Catherine Bigelow to direct.
Whoa.
That movie would have had Bob Hoskins as Wolverine.
Who's that?
Bob Hoskins is, oh my gosh, I'm blanking. He's in Super Mario Brothers. He is Mario. He's that guy.
That movie?
The movie from
live
the 90s.
action?
Yeah.
What? How does that even make sense?
Yeah, he would have been Wolverine.
Wait, why didn't we get this movie? Yeah, that guy.
What else is he in? He's in so much.
He's in Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
That's right. Yeah. Now, in their
you gotta
defense,
say his name like Bob Hoskins.
Bob Hoskins. In their defense, like Wolverine in the comics is a short guy.
He is?
He's really short, and that's been one of the dumb things that comic book fans get mad at, where it's like, well, Hugh Jackman's tall.
Hugh Jackman's too tall. Tom Cruise is too short. We're never happy.
Yeah. Well, and the consensus dream cast of Wolverine now
is Bob Hoskins.
No, it is Daniel Radcliffe. Is what everybody wants because he's small and stocky. He's not really stocky, but he would like
do anything he sets his mind to.
Oh yeah, I mean, I would love that.
He played Weird Al and he nailed it.
Angela Bassett would have been Storm in that, which totally makes sense. She'd have been great.
She does no wrong.
No, she doesn't. The deal falls through when Cameron wants to make his Spider-Man movie that he begins working on for many years.
Oh, I didn't know he was working on a Spider-Man movie.
Which we'll talk about whenever we talk about the Tobey movies. Because, yeah, he worked on a Spider-Man movie that had kind of a wild plot.
Who was his Spider-Man?
I don't know. I don't remember.
We'll find out at a later date.
Yeah. So then in 92, and this brings us back to our very first episode, because remember we were talking about Marvel and who owned what characters and stuff. So in 92, Marvel attempts to sell the rights of X-Men to Columbia.
Okay.
They don't buy it. But producer Avi Arad is making the animated show in the 90s, and it's a big hit. So Fox goes, let's buy the rights to X-Men. So this is like, it's just crazy because this is the big fracture where it's like X-Men is bought, Sony has the rights to Spider-Man, Fox has the rights to X-Men, and then Paramount gets the rights to the rest of the Marvel characters. Paramount makes Iron Man, and then Disney starts making them. And then over the years, it's been like, how come the X-Men aren't in this? How come these universes can't cross over? And it's like, well, they don't own the rights. And now that Disney owns Fox and, well, they don't own Sony, they still have to make deals every time Spider-Man or a villain or a character is in a movie.
After a Spider-Man movie comes out, there's always a threat that's the last
right.
one.
But now, and that's the big question. It's like, when are the X-Men going to be in the MCU? Which I look forward to. I think they'll probably do a better job, not necessarily of casting, but of like introducing them well and stuff. So Fox gets the rights, and in '94, Andrew Kevin Walker, the writer of Seven, starts working on a script, and he has this big old pitch. I won't get into it, but you can read about it. The script focuses on the rivalry between Wolverine and Cyclops, as well as the latter's self-doubt as a field leader. Part of the backstory invented for Magneto made him the cause of the Chernobyl disaster.
Whoa, that's interesting.
That's just a little piece. And he turns in a second draft in 94. And then in 95, Kalogridis, that's the last name of the guy who wrote Shutter Island. Or woman, I'm not sure because I think it auto-corrected the first name.
Okay.
So, Kalogridis, they did a rewrite. Then in 96, Michael Chabon does a 6-page treatment. They're trying to get Robert Rodriguez to direct it. They're trying to get Paul W.S. Anderson.
Robert Rodriguez, the Spy Kids guy?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then after Usual Suspects, which is a Bryan Singer movie, they're like, we should bring Bryan Singer into this. So that's when he starts getting involved.
You said Christopher McQuarrie earlier in our...
I'm going to talk about that.
Oh, okay.
Then they get Ed Solomon, who is one of the writers on Bill and Ted, to work on a script. And he does a rewrite, but that doesn't go through. And then Claremont sends them a 4-page memo that's like, this is what's interesting and good about X-Men. This is what should be included. Sends that to them. And then they're like, okay, we got our crew of people, and they're working on the movie. They're officially working on the draft that will become the movie we watched. But they had to cut Beast, Nightcrawler, Pyro, and then the Danger Room, which is where they train, for the studio to greenlight this movie because they were like, that's going to be too expensive. And I think Pyro is still in the movie.
Wow, so this movie's only an hour and 40 minutes because of money?
I think so.
Love it.
And then Christopher McQuarrie, who wrote Usual Suspects, he comes in to rewrite this movie. And he rewrites a lot of it, we'll talk about that in a second. And Joss Whedon comes in, does a rewrite, and apparently only 2 lines of his made it in the movie because it was too pop culture heavy, and people didn't like it. And then David Hayter comes in, who ultimately gets the screenplay credit. But in 2020, the Hollywood Reporter revealed that McQuarrie and Solomon both removed their names from the film due to the studio's torturous process. Solomon would later express regret towards removing his name. Hayter claims that 55% of his script ended up in the finished film, while other insiders claim that the majority of what is on screen was written by McQuarrie and Solomon, with only small contributions from Hayter. So they didn't like the process, Ed Solomon and McQuarrie, so much that they removed their names when apparently by some insiders they wrote most of this movie.
What do they mean by the process? Okay.
I'm just teeing you up for the questions, dude. So I'm going to be reading a lot from a Hollywood Reporter article from 2020. And this is where the trigger warning, I guess, is going to come in. But before you click forward, you do have to hear this insane fact about this movie, which is perhaps the funniest thing maybe I've ever heard about a movie. In the spring of 1999, Bryan Singer and a group of X-Men producers and crew were working out of the old Fox offices near Olympic and Bundy when Michael Jackson walked in the door. Wearing sunglasses and refusing to shake hands, Jackson was visiting the industrial space to meet with Singer to discuss the prospect of playing Professor Xavier in the upcoming film.
What?
I said to him, Do you know Xavier is an older white guy? X-Men producer Lauren Schuler Donner recalls. And Michael said, oh, yeah, I can wear makeup.
Wow.
The audacity for this man to think that he's not only going to play Charles Xavier, but play Jar Jar Binks. He thought...
What else is he asked to play?
I don't know, but that's insane.
That is insane.
Could you imagine the soft-spoken man with white paint all over him, like, leading the X-Men? I want to see this movie. If I could see this movie, I would pay money to see this.
I mean, do you think that's just he is so famous that he thinks he can literally ask for it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's just the delusions of having people only say yes to you since you were, 6 years old or whatever.
Yeah.
So with that, Jackson queued up an elaborate presentation complete with the short film Ghosts, in which the pop star morphed into a 60-something white mayor railing against a well-meaning performer who entertains local children with magic tricks. 20th Century Fox, the studio behind the film, never seriously considered Jackson for the role, which eventually went to Patrick Stewart, in a turn that enabled him to be known for a popular character other than Captain Picard. Michael was already in the thick of all his allegations by X-Men as well.
Oh, really? Oh, my gosh. So he walks in and they're just like, please leave.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if Bryan Singer thought that, as we're about to get into.
Well, yeah.
So behind the scenes, crisis raged, including drug use, tantrums, and a writer's feud. Adding to the drama, one of the film's actors filed a civil suit 4 months after production wrapped, claiming that he was raped by 3 of Singer's friends and business associates, although none of them were involved with X-Men. Not great.
Awful.
Terrible. Singer already has a suit against him by the time this movie comes out, because he had made this movie called Apt Pupil, and on April 15th of 1997, 2 boys, 114 and 117, filed a civil lawsuit claiming that they were ordered to strip naked for a scene.
Oh, my gosh.
At least 2 other actors made similar allegations, with one claiming that he would be fired if he refused to perform nude. And then Singer was one of the several defendants named in the suits, which reportedly were settled for an undisclosed sum.
Jeez.
So already he should be kicked out and not.
I didn't know that
there.
that there were things charged against him right right away.
I didn't know that either. And again, that's 1997. This movie comes out in 2000.
Yeah.
So Fox should be
and
like,
I'm talking
no.
about X-Men, because I've not heard of that other stuff that happened before.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And then, McQuarrie was so angry at the studio for the torturous process that he persuaded Solomon to remove his name. At the time, this is Solomon. At the time, I no longer wanted my name on a movie if it wasn't entirely my work. It came more out of immature self-righteousness than anything else, and in hindsight, it was a stupid move. It wound up being an expensive decision.
Wow.
Chris gave up at least $1 million, that's Chris McQuarrie, the first year in residuals and credit bonuses, hater notes. Same with Ed. It's unheard of.
Wow.
But then there are a number of men, including some who were minors at the time, have claimed that Singer dangled X-Men auditions and roles in exchange for sex.
Wow.
To get on this movie. And then this one blew me. This was wild. So Pyro, who is in one scene of this movie, maybe says
classroom scene?
Yeah, I think he says one line of dialogue. He was an 18-year-old, and no one remembers how Burton, that's his name, Alex Burton, who had no previous credits, was cast. One source says Burton told him that the Mark and Brian created the role for me. Another source says Burton was flown up to the Toronto set from Los Angeles, an unheard of move given the size of his role. And then 8 days after X-Men Ellis Island premiere on July 12th, 2000, Burton filed a civil suit against 3 of Singer's friends and business associates. And that's what we had talked about a little bit ago. And then beyond that, in interviews at the time, Singer conceded that he was taking pain medication for his back, and others on set characterized his drug use as problematic, leading to late arrivals to the set, mood swings, and explosive tantrums. Some of the characters, like Ramajan's Mystique, required hours of body painting before filming. On a whim, Singer would decide not to use her in a scene.
What?
So she's sitting there for hours, and then like, we don't need you.
Did you look up the? Okay.
I got you this time. Marvel chief Kevin Feige, then a young executive working for Schuler Donner, was dispatched to ensure that someone was keeping Singer in line.
What?
So Feige begins his like Marvel. This is the beginning of Feige. Is
and his job is to babysit.
Yeah.
Yikes.
And Jackman, this was he was not the first choice, and he was an unknown at the time. So this like makes his career.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And then they had to finish this movie 6 months ahead of schedule because Spielberg was supposed to release Minority Report in July or June actually, but he decided to shoot AI instead. And so then they had to fill the slot.
Which cool movie do I want to make first?
Hugh Jackman does have claws that he wears. Of course, there's CG involved as well, and then Singer insisted at the last minute to change the color to look opaque for Mystique, which added 6 hours to makeup.
What does that mean, opaque? I mean, I know what the word means, but I don't understand what that means.
I don't
in
know.
This context. Okay.
It just like they had like, okay, this is how we're gonna do it, and this is like how it's gonna look, and then just like pretty late into production, he's like, no, I want it to look like this, and it adds 6 hours to her having to get makeup. And then Ramajan reflected, I had almost no contact with the rest of the cast. It was like I was making a different movie from everyone else. It was hell.
I am assuming, because I know the Jennifer Lawrence one looks very similar, like the blue and the hair and stuff, that this is what this character looks like in the comics.
Yeah.
Okay. It just sucks, like, and maybe I'm a prude or something, but like, on top of all that, she has to basically just be naked the whole time.
I know, it'd be tough.
That's awful. That sucks. Yeah. And it just feels degrading at a point.
Oh, yeah.
Not even at a point. It's just, ugh.
Yeah. So those are the notes.
Okay, but you didn't find anything about how the stuff was applied to her? Because I saw a thing that I forgot to look into.
I looked at it. I didn't understand it because I don't do makeup, so I didn't think I was qualified to report on it.
I should look into it because I saw a thing that said that, I don't know if it was her or Jennifer Lawrence. I'm assuming it's her just because it's an older movie.
Yeah.
And, hopefully we as humans get better at treating people better. But like, that it was potentially harmful to her. The stuff the methods and how they were applying things.
I'm sure it was this one because they changed the thing late into production, so they probably couldn't like test it the way they need to and stuff. Yeah. So,
gosh,
just awful.
Yeah.
Awful guy. And we have to talk about him one more time, and then we can put him to bed until we cover Superman.
That's crazy. I mean, this is just the world we live in. I know that, but like that these allegations came out against him quickly, and even before the X-Men movie, there were allegations, and they just still let him make another movie.
Well, that's the there's always these arguments about like cancel culture and stuff like that. But one thing I would think people could agree on is like if something this serious happens, then we can at the very least pump the brakes until like life is figured out.
Well, yeah, I mean.
Because I think back then the motto was like, until something's proven, who cares? Here's your next project. Here's your next project.
But a studio should take seriously the allegations that someone is bribing people for roles with sex or whatever. Like that should be taken seriously, and nothing else should go forward until that's taken care of.
Yeah.
And he's not to look at it as a cold business way. It's like that is what needs to happen.
And yes, he's like an up and coming like hot director, but it's not like he made Pulp Fiction. Well, I guess people really do love The Usual Suspects. I don't think it's that great of a movie.
Yeah.
But I don't think he made this movie that's like, oh my gosh, like we have to have him. It's like just hire someone else.
Yeah.
Someone else can do this.
Yeah.
So it's wild to me, and that is a good thing about more accountability these days, where it's like, I'm sure there are people who've been screwed out of jobs that they rightly deserved and didn't do what was being like the allegations.
What they were bribed with.
But having people pump the brakes and be like, you know what? like maybe this person did do these things. And if that's the case, do we really want to go forward, support them, give them a salary, give them the creative juices to make this thing when they've been hurting all these people?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to jump into the movie?
Mm-hmm. So the movie begins.
You said it. That's what I usually say. I guess that's what you get when you come into a brand new year.
That's my New Year's resolution.
Yeah, you're going to do
Just
that.
to say it one time.
And that was it.
Yeah, so I achieved it fast and early.
Okay.
Whoops, I cut that part out, actually.
Really? Oh, no, you're making a joke.
That's what she said, though.
Oh, yeah. Well, she said a lot of stuff. So the movie begins, and we have... Well, actually, let me... You really take it. If you want to take the line, you got to really take it.
I wouldn't even dare try and take away describing the first scene from you.
No, Jordan, I really want you to do it because clearly you have a very strong memory of the first
Okay, fine,
scene.
I can do it. It's rainy.
Wrong.
Dang it.
So the movie begins. So I guess your resolution stands because you have to do it. You have to do it like the pro that I am, you know?
Don't make me do what you do. I just want to do what I want to do.
But this is what happens. There is like a camera going through this swirling electronic looking craziness. It's like the human spinal
the
column.
opening title sequence is what
Yeah.
I forgot.
Yes.
Okay.
And it's just funny. I mean, it looks pretty bad, and there's kind of this like, here's what X-Men are. There's genes, and man fears them, and it's the next phase in human evolution.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, isn't Professor Xavier saying something about that?
yeah, he's the one who's explaining it. It's very quick.
Oh, this was funny. I felt like his that all that stuff was said so quickly. Like there wasn't much of a dramatic flair to it. It was very textbook.
No. And it's funny because on the one hand, I'm kind of glad they just get it out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, I think it's... Although they still start a lot of movies in this kind of fashion, like fantasy or superhero movies, but it is kind of like, oh, that feels like a dated ending to like a good superhero movie. To start it off with, like, just start the movie.
A dated beginning?
A dated beginning, yes.
Yeah.
Just feels like, just start the movie.
Yeah.
But I think for the time period this came out, it's you have to explain something because audiences are not necessarily ready for X-Men. Like, who are the X-Men?
Yeah.
So that happens.
Comic people are probably still nerds in 2000.
Yeah.
Probably not very cool yet.
No. Now it is, of course, you're lame if you don't know about this stuff. You're not, like, now if... When this generation of people grows up and makes their own movies and they make the Fablemans, it's going to be like... I liked sports, and I got beat up in high school by all these Marvel fans. That'll be it.
Interesting prediction.
Okay. No laughter from you on that. Then we get to, we're in, I believe, Poland, right? Is that where it's... Yeah, Poland, 1944, and we have a good intro.
Great intro.
You want to talk about it?
I knew about this... Well, I couldn't remember if it was Xavier or Magneto. For one. Yeah. But I knew that one of them was in a concentration camp. And that's kind of like their backstory.
Yeah.
Which is like, whoa, that is such a cool idea. But I didn't remember that this was in this movie.
Yeah.
Movie 1. They just put it in.
Yeah.
That just felt crazy for some reason.
It's really cool. And the unfortunate thing is they do this in First Class as well.
Okay.
And it's way worse.
Really?
Yeah, they don't do a very good job.
This was great because it was all showing, no telling. So
yeah, in the other one, it's like the kid's like, ah! And he's like getting really mad and like it's just much more like dramatic. Whereas
is it much more I'm a bad guy kind of thing?
It feel well.
I mean, that sounds weird. I mean,
a long time, but it's like I like how this. I just really think the scene is really well done, and I like how it's just showing his powers, but it's not being overly dramatic about it for something that's pretty easy to go overly dramatic on.
Yeah.
And
boy, is this scene muddy.
It's very muddy.
Classic movie rain. It's just dumping buckets.
And he like freaks out because in case you didn't watch this movie or don't know anything about history, they're Jewish and they're in the
I
concentration
think we
camps.
should assume that people know about the Holocaust.
Well, yeah, but
Magneto is being separated from his parents.
yes,
And they are freaking out, trying to get back together, but are being held back and, forced to go the direction that they were separated in. And what is Magneto's real name?
Eric something.
Okay.
I can't remember his last name. But.
So, yeah, the gate closes and everything on his parents, but he's still struggling, and it takes like 5 men to hold him back, even though he's a kid. And he's
like reaching out to the fence, and it's starting to bend.
But what feels cool about that is it feels like he is reaching for his parents. He's not doing that whole classic telekinetic.
Well,
does that make sense?
I think this is the first time he does this.
And that's why I think he's reaching out for his parents. He's not doing the whole my hand signifies that I'm using my powers right now.
Yeah.
That's a thing.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I
mean.
mean.
He's just
just reaching, and he destroys the gate.
Yeah, and there's a great shot of the bad guy, the Nazis have pulled him back, but then they look at the fence, and it's after they hit him with the butt of a rifle to knock him out.
Yeah.
And they look at the fence, and it's all gnarled and bending toward him.
Yeah.
It's a really great intro.
It's so powerful.
You look at that and you're like, wow. And what's awesome about it is, and this is true to the comic books as well. It's just great motivation for this character because he has this X factor, the X gene. He's the next step in human evolution. And he has lived through a time period where people said, hey, you're different. We're going to put you in a camp because you're different.
And we're going to kill you because of it.
Gas you, do all those horrible, horrible things. So his motivation when he, and it runs through, I think, all 3 of these movies where he's like, I don't trust the humans. We should wage war against them. It totally tracks and is fantastic.
You're
writing.
in the Holocaust, you go through it and you make it out, and you're an X-Men on top of it. I understand where he's coming from. His motivation makes a lot of sense. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. And then hearing about at the beginning of this movie, Senator Kelly trying to get mutants to register and stuff like that. He's like, I've heard this before.
He's the Iron Man of this story.
In what way?
Oh no, he is the Captain America of this story.
I mean, in a way, yeah. But I just think it's great motivation, and I do think number one with a bullet on if the best parts about these first 3 X-Men movies, it's Hugh Jackman, no brainer, duh, he's amazing. And then number 2 and 3, I share it. It's got to be Charles Xavier and Magneto. They're what carry these movies, I think.
Is he called Professor X?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But then do we cut to Mississippi?
I believe yes. Yeah.
So then we're in Mississippi.
In the not too distant future.
Yes. And Anna Paquin is hanging out with a boy in her room.
Yeah.
And we kind of mentioned it earlier, but she's doing a Southern accent, but it's like she's trying to do honestly, it's a caricature. It's not good. It's bad. It's like she's doing deep Southern accent, and it's just so bad. It's so bad.
Yeah, and it really slips in and out.
It does.
And it's, you know what? Let's just blame it on Bryan Singer. I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Anna Paquin, your hands are clean.
Yeah, I mean, terrible set to work on.
Anything I don't like about this movie, I'm just going to blame on him. And I feel very comfortable with that statement.
Sure. But her and the boy kiss, and then he I don't know.
He can't breathe, and then
he's dying.
Yeah.
This has never happened before, assumedly. I don't think that's a word. And I thought her reaction was good. I liked her reaction.
Yeah.
Of freaking out. And then she becomes a runaway.
Yep.
Because she touches people and they die. No one understands her. She doesn't even understand herself. She's just going to drift. Well, she's specifically looking to go to Canada, right?
Yeah. And I don't recall. Oh, she just says in the scene, she's like, one day I'm going to go head over to Canada.
Oh, so she's just doing her thing.
And I'm going to go see the Alps or something. I know they're not in Canada.
The Alps of Canada. Great.
But, a lot of Canada is the Alps of North America.
Okay.
And so, so she says that, and then she heads on up to Canada.
heads on up to
She
Canada.
heads on up to Canada. So every time we talk about her, we should do our best Southern accent. And then we see Senator Kelly. He's at the
They're at a UN thing. I
UN
think.
or Congress or something like that.
No, I think it's UN. Micah.
Okay.
Micah. But yeah, so Jean Grey is giving some kind of presentation on X-Men and, really advocating for their rights and not having to register them. But yeah, Senator Kelly is so disagreeing.
Yeah.
Because X-Men are weapons.
And it just has, I'm sure you can relate it to many other things, but the first thing I thought of was like in the 50s when they were blacklisting writers in Hollywood and stuff. And in the Senate, I think they were asking actors to tell them like who is a commie so that we can like register them and get them out of Hollywood and stuff like that.
Yep.
And this scene kind of has that feeling, this like fear mongering. We don't understand them, so therefore let's just stop it now. And it kind of, I think this cycle is close to America's heart, this fear mongering thing, because it's kind of like you're watching this scene and it feels like a lot of how a lot of political parties and campaigns are run today still, unfortunately. That's all Fox News does. They're just Senator Kelly, in a nutshell. So you're seeing that, and then you see that this bald man in a wheelchair is watching, and it's Professor Xavier. And then there's another man who's got like a raincoat and a hat on, and he's watching. And then as Xavier leaves, goes into the hallway, and he sees Eric, who is Magneto. And they kind of have this exchange, and I like how Magneto is, there's shadows covering his face and stuff like that. And he says, this is what happens when this happens, and so we the mutants need to team up and stop this. And Xavier's like, no, we can help them. There's a better way. There's a better way. And then Magneto feels him pulling in his mind, and he goes, "What are you looking for?" And Charles says, "Hope." And I don't think the movie ever gets as good as that scene, that scene and the Poland scene, because when we sat down and were watching it, I was like, "Oh, this is gonna like rip. This potentially could be great all the way through." And again, I think most of my issues with this are just that it hasn't aged the best. But those two scenes are kind of worth the price of admission. I like them a lot. Yeah. And Ian McKellen, come on. Yeah. The guy's a pro.
They've both been knighted for being such good actors.
Yeah.
What more could you ask for?
Yeah. Then we're back in Canada.
So, Rogue goes into this bar thing, but there's like cage fighting going on in the back. And you get a sense pretty immediately that there's this one dude that you can pay to fight, and no one beats him.
Yeah.
And they say pretty immediately he goes by Wolverine. And then it kind of we see just Hugh Jackman's back, and he's drinking something, and it's just like, just by looking at his back, just how it's like, this man is massive. He is a big person. And then he turns around, and it just feels so dramatic. And his hair, I'm interested to see the evolution of his getup as these movies go on, because I doubt that it's as cartoony as this movie. And I still think that it looks pretty good.
I love the hair. Because here's the interesting thing I think about where this movie is placed. This movie and Spider-Man, really all the Tobey Maguire movies, they're placed in this weird point in time where they have to prove to general audiences that comic books are cool, but they also have to appease the audience. Whereas now, I think you could get away with more comic book true, costumes and characters, but I think they're still a little too scared to go all the way.
Yeah, they are, as evidence in Daredevil's new costume and She-Hulk's.
Let's not go there right now. But I think what's kind of wild is, I would think that you would cut the hair like right off the bat if you were making this movie and trying to get it to a general audience.
Do you mean today?
No, like when this comes out. So the fact that they commit to that, things like Mystique committing to that. That's a pretty big thing to commit to, although it is basically a naked woman, so it's not that big of a thing to commit to at the same time.
I don't understand, other than putting clothes on her if they wanted to.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what else they could have done to make her different.
Well,
Because she looks good.
Yeah, but what I mean is I do think this movie like does commit.
Yeah.
Even though they make this annoying comment that will resonate throughout comic book movies for the next 25 years, which we'll get to. But I do think the movie does pretty much commit to let's present them pretty cool looking and exciting. But it could have gone farther, but I think it might not have landed with audiences.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the whole, that's the Spider-Man thing too, like making the Green Goblin like a battle outfit. That's not comic booky at all.
But in what?
In Spider-Man,
The new one?
the old movie, making him look like that is like not at all how he looks in the comic books.
Oh, really? I actually don't quite remember what he looks like in the Tobey movies.
It's like a battle outfit kind of a thing. It's like a Power Ranger kind of outfit,
yeah.
So
what does he look like in the comic?
I mean,
so have I never seen what he really looks like?
I don't know. I mean,
Well, what about the helmet?
No, that's especially not how he looks. He looks like a goblin, like it's like his face. Like he looks. I mean, it's still a mask. But that's the other thing about comic books. It's like, I mean, that's the thing they've struggled with Spider-Man for all the movies that they've made, and they've talked about a lot, where it's like, if we do a practical costume, you can't see the actor's face or expression. So that's why in the new Spider-Man movies, it's like the Spider-Man costume is made by Tony Stark and it's more digital, so they can move the eyes and add expression to scenes. Because when you read a comic book, Spider-Man's eyes bounce around all the time, and his mouth and all that stuff. Same with Deadpool. That's why they animated the Deadpool mask and stuff in the movies, so that he would have expression.
Yeah. But that's how he looks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And, the looks change and everything, but I just think, like, the time that this movie comes out, they have to kind of, like, skirt the line, is all I'm trying to say.
I think with some people, some characters, if they went all the way and went ham with it, we would just get another one of those 60s Batman movies.
That's true. I'm not saying one approach is better than the other.
I know you're not, but I just think that that's what would happen.
Yeah. And I think there have been some pretty laughable stuff that we've seen, even in the MCU.
There is a balance, though.
Yes.
That I just still think is not quite achieved because of the things that you're saying.
Yeah.
But in terms of, I think they can go a little bit campier. I think they shouldn't be as scared because the movies are already kind of campy. I'm talking specifically Marvel. You
think they could go campier?
I think they could go campy. Are you kidding me? Daredevil looks awful, and I didn't love how he looked.
Oh, you're talking visuals.
I'm talking visuals.
Oh, wait, because I feel like the humor and the stories are pretty great.
So,
in that regard.
No, but they're already so quippy and sarcastic and hammy in that way that I think they can visually go a little bit farther with suits.
Oh, absolutely, I agree.
And I just don't think that I think they're too scared to do it.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yes. That I agree with you 100%.
I mean, they couldn't even do that for Lightyear.
No, they couldn't. But then at the same time, it's like Iron Man looks pretty cool in all the movies that he's in, and Hulk looks cool in all the movies he's in, except for he
technically is the hammiest out of all of them.
Yeah.
Because he's a giant green man. How does that not look funny?
Yeah.
And then they went a step further, and it's Mark Ruffalo's face, which obviously would be. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just so silly.
But then at the same time, like, I feel like in the new Thor movie, I did like their costumes, but there was something like odd about them because they were pretty flamboyant and like bombastic costumes.
There were a lot of things I had issues with that movie, though, in terms of they didn't go all the way with a lot of things.
Yeah.
That I think I wonder if they would have with other things that we wouldn't notice those things as much. You know what I mean?
And it could just be as simple as like, I can think of a specific scene where when he first sees Jane as Thor.
Yeah.
And both their costumes just looked odd to me, and it's probably as simple as like their costumes are usually CGI in these movies, and it was just different to see an actual costume on a person, which is annoying that's what's going through my head. because there's so much CGI on what they wear. But
So Wolverine classically has the yellow stripes on him, right? On his suit. There's a yellow X on his chest.
Well, that's the X-Men. That's what they wear. They
all wear the
they all
same
wear the
thing?
X-Men. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, there's different variations of different costumes and different time periods.
Yeah,
but like the classic, if you're thinking the X-Men costume, you're thinking yellow with a black X across the
I thought
chest.
that was just a him thing.
No.
Oh.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not him, bub. I'm saying bub because Wolverine says bub all the time.
Oh, does he in the comics?
Oh, yeah.
Cute.
Bub.
But yeah, going back to the cage fighting though.
Yeah.
This guy pays to fight him. And, as the viewer, you see him get a couple punches in.
Mhm.
And it is a little like, where is this Wolverine at in his story,
Yeah.
But then he gets up and beats the man into submission immediately.
And you hear like ping, 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 ping as he's hitting him. Because, of course, he has adamantium
Oh, I don't think
bones.
I noticed the noise.
Oh, come on, Jordan.
Sorry.
And
I learned a lot about Wolverine that I forgot about, even though I had seen this movie.
Well, I had forgotten how much, because I remember as a kid, all I had were Spider-Man comics. So when I saw a movie like this, it was just like, I want to know everything, but I don't know how to find it out.
Sure.
Like if I had access to like the Marvel Unlimited app when I was a kid, I don't know if I ever would have left my room because I probably would have been like, I have to read every single comic book. Like it would have been bad. But I forgot that like in this movie, they really hit hard often. Like, we don't know what happened to Wolverine. We don't know how he's here. And so when they announced that they were making an X-Men movie that was a prequel that showed how he became Wolverine, me as a kid, I was like, oh my gosh, my questions will be answered. I'm dying to know about this Wolverine. Like, what is his deal?
But the thing about that now is, don't you think that, because when we hear that something's going to be an origin story, or like when they were going to make new Spider-Man movies.
Yeah.
And my first thought was, please don't make it an origin story.
Yeah.
I have seen it so many times, especially Spider-Man. So many times being 2, but 2 is too many. And I just really didn't want it. And they didn't do it.
Yeah.
Which was awesome. But I think part of that is because, well, one, I already knew what his origin was, I guess.
Yeah.
But also, like, let's say it's a character that I don't know what their origin is. I'm just still at a point, though, where I don't care where they came from.
So I will combat you with several points. Number one, you're not a 6th grade boy who wants to know everything. And even now, like, I don't have those kinds of questions as much about stuff. Usually I'm like, okay, this is this character. I get it. It's like a Rocket and Guardians. Mm-hmm. I'd be happy if they want to explain it, but I don't need them to.
I think they're going to explain it,
but I do think
and I say
to.
Unfortunately because it's going to make us cry.
Yes, not because it'll be bad. It's going to be good.
Yeah.
So, having said that, though, Gilmore, you got to stay away from this cord. I just edited an episode where he was running all over the place, but you're a good boy. So, speaking of, he's got a raccoon tail. So, Rocket, he heard it, and he answered the call. But what in the world was I saying? Oh, yes. And then on top of that, this, a Wolverine movie gets announced before we have, like, origins.
No, that's what I mean.
Up the wazoo.
That's why I think it's great and necessary and good that they did it. Smart.
Yeah.
But today, it's like, just
tell the story.
make a story.
Yeah.
Just make a new story, and we learn who the character is through the story that has nothing to do with how they got there.
Yeah.
That I think it's just fatigue on that stuff.
Yeah. And then the other thing that movie suffers from is a thing called the writer's strike.
Oh, okay.
And that's why that movie sucks.
So, this is what I learned about Wolverine. Pretty big important things I learned about him that I never knew. Or I never made the connection. His claws are not part of his mutant form.
No.
Okay, that was a big one for me. That was quite eye-opening. So really the only thing that is his mutant stuff is the regeneration, the
healing factor,
the
as
healing
we call
factor. And is he super strong?
Not beyond like a normal man.
Okay, so just being able to heal himself, that's his mutant factor.
Yeah. Oh yeah, just being able to heal himself.
No, that's it. Micah, don't misunderstand me. That's huge. But it's always like, yeah, even as a kid and stuff, I mean, I know I didn't grow up watching these movies, so why would I know? But it's like, yeah, he has claws and he fights.
Yeah.
No, Jordan, you got it all wrong.
Yeah. No, it's because he can heal. That's his big thing. That's his mutation.
Mm-hmm.
But as we were watching it, I actually was kind of like, wait, what is his mutation? Because if it's just his bones, that's not a mutation.
Yeah, someone surgically put that in.
Yeah, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, it's got to be the healing factor. It's got to be. And then, of course, they explain it in the movie, and I was like, okay.
I can't wait to learn so much more in Origins.
Yeah, we're going to learn a lot more. I remember when they announced that movie, I don't know if I read like stuff on the internet or if I just thought that they were going to do this. In my head, them announcing we're making X-Men Origins meant like, oh, we're going to get a Cyclops Origins, a Jean Grey Origins. Like in my head, I was like, they're going to make like 30 of these movies and I'll finally know everything about these characters. And here we are years later. Could imagine the kind of person I would be if I grew up like as a kid. Like let's say I'm second grade when Iron Man comes out.
Mm-hmm.
That would change the whole game for me. But I'm already crazy, so maybe it would have been even worse. So then Wolverine, some guy's like, what are you doing?
What are
like,
you, a wise guy?
Yeah, and he pulls his claws and then he slowly puts the middle one up to his neck. And
that looked practical to me.
It did not look practical at all to me, but
it probably wasn't then.
Yeah, anytime it was like sliding in and out,
but it was like a close up of his knuckle, and it just looked like they just did a quick little thing.
I mean, maybe it was funny though because you said that, and I was just like, just don't say anything, Micah.
Oh, gosh. But at the scene, Rogue is at the bar too.
Yeah.
And she, before the guy stabs Wolverine, she screams, he's watch out. And then the bartender has a rifle and threatens Wolverine, tells him to get out. And then Wolverine, with his claws,
slashes the shotgun, which I think we hear like pellets hitting the floor.
I think it's like
cool.
it looked like gunpowder was coming out of it.
It was probably shotgun pellets.
Yeah, I know.
It was a shotgun.
I know.
And then, right off the bat, you're like, oh, this guy's cool. This guy's like my favorite character, And
You're stupid for liking all the other ones.
Yeah, you are stupid for that. Or I'm stupid?
Yeah, you're stupid.
But yeah, Hugh Jackman brings a lot to the role of Wolverine.
I didn't know he was an unknown before this movie.
Yeah. I mean, he really makes this character. He does what, what Robert Downey Jr. did to Iron Man, where I think Wolverine was a very popular character, but he brought kind of his own style to it. And now, I mean, I doubt that someone will ever really think like he's not Wolverine over whoever they put in the MCU. But having said that, we've have like
he's
5
so
Batman.
Big. He's too big.
Yeah, people don't like that. People don't like that. I think people got over that pretty quick once they saw it. But it's like when Tom Hardy was cast as Bane. Comic book fans are like, but Bane's like 6 foot and Tom Hardy's like 5'5". I don't know what I'm gonna do. And they're like, have you ever heard of like trick photography? Have you seen Lord of the Rings or anything? Have you ever seen a movie? What are you talking about? They're actors. Anyway. Here's what's a funny story. Your Nona and your grandpa, they really like to read like those like detective novels and like spy novels.
It's not Jack Ryan. It's Jack Reacher.
Jack Reacher. But like that genre, the James Pattersons and the whatever that other guy is. Who am I thinking of? He's kind of like the other Stephen King.
Well, there's Tom Clancy.
There's Tom Clancy.
Okay. James Patterson. David Baldacci.
They love David
Child.
Baldacci. Yeah.
My dad lovingly says David Balducci every time he says his name. And then there is another one I'm blanking on.
What is his name?
I'm looking it up because I have to know.
Okay. But so they really like those, and it's very funny because, Tom Cruise is into
what?
Oh,
hold on. Keep going.
Tom Cruise is into Jack Reacher movies.
Lee Child. So I said
okay, that's not
Child.
who I was thinking of, but that's okay. I was thinking of the guy who wrote like the Frankenstein book you talk about.
Koontz.
Dean Koontz.
My Nona and Grandpa do not read
they
Dean
don't.
Koontz.
He doesn't write those types of books.
No.
So, but I'm glad I remember who it is now. But anyway, so they like those, and they saw at least one of the Jack Ryan movies. And, of course, your family knows that I'm a Tom Cruise apologist.
Mm-hmm.
And so your dad, who likes to sow seeds of discord in a very fun way sometimes, he was like, he'll bring up Tom Cruise any chance he gets to around Nona, because whatever happens, it doesn't matter how many times it's discussed. It's always like, oh, that Tom Cruise, he was too short to play Jack Reacher. Jack Reacher is 6'7" in the books.
He's 6'4". All he carries around with him is a toothbrush, and he keeps it
and he presses his clothes under the mattress.
Under the mattress, so it's pressed in the morning when he gets up, because he's a drifter, and he just goes from town to town, and people call on him for help.
And they always say that
every time. That's the spiel you get.
Yeah, and then they'll say, they had to dig a ditch for him to be as tall as his the lead woman in that movie. And I'm like,
we've been digging ditches for Tom Cruise since he's been in Hollywood.
That is funny, but also I don't know how that affects the quality of the movie. They've never said anything about the quality of the movie.
I don't think they actually really like Jack Reacher either. Because I feel like the last book or something that came out, they were not enjoying it. It's like, then why are you reading it?
Here's what I love is I noticed that for some reason they were always just mentioning the toothbrush and the pressed clothes.
Yeah.
So
that was their favorite. That's what made them unique.
Yeah. One time I mentioned, well, what do you like about these books? Because all you ever mention are the pressed clothes and the toothbrush. And I believe they both responded with like, yeah. It's just great because he always goes to the motel and, he does press his clothes under the mattress because he's just a drifter. And that was their response to me trying to figure out what was interesting about Jack Reacher.
I mean, those are kinds of books, though, that they just get churned out so quickly all the time.
I know.
So it is like, I really think that's all there is to Jack Reacher.
I know.
And I've never read a book, and I'm not saying they're bad. I'm sure they're very exciting.
Yeah. It's so fun. Well, and I think what sometimes people who are fans of those books, and I include like a lot of people in those things, is when it is a genre like that, like a detective genre or whatever, usually the filmmaker and actors aren't actually concerned with being accurate.
Yeah.
Because they see it as a vessel for a film franchise.
All the books are serialized.
So when Tom Cruise sees that, he's like, here's an action guy. I like these little bits about it. That would be fun. And we could probably make several movies out of this. And if it's a hit, we'll just keep making them.
Yep.
I think now, though, there's enough of a vocal audience that now, because here's the other funny thing. I think it was last year they came out with a Jack Reacher TV show.
Jack Ryan.
No, Jack Reacher.
You're right. They did.
And guess what everyone said about that?
They got a tall guy.
Everyone said, that guy is so big.
Yep.
That guy's so... And guess what?
They got a guy that was at least 6 feet tall.
I haven't heard anyone discuss the quality of the show.
No.
All they say is, he's so big.
No.
And I'm like, that doesn't mean anything to me.
Know.
That's not going to make me watch this Amazon original show as a guy as big.
I know.
If I want to watch a big guy, I'll watch WWE. It's crazy.
Good for the people, though. I work for a publishing company, and this was when that show was coming out. And, because it's in the book world, and I hear a lot of presentations from other publishers and just a lot of meetings with those kinds of things. And I just remember someone saying, like, the show is coming out soon based on the Jack Reacher books, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And someone mentioned that they got a guy that was big. Like, that was like a selling point in someone's mind.
But it must, I guess that this conversation is making me realize we're the crazy ones. We're crazy for thinking that film can confuse us about someone's height. We're the crazy ones.
Yeah.
I guess. Because apparently it worked. Because I remember even one of your cousins mentioned, the guy's so big in that show. So
that was loud.
Gilmore just had a little cough there. The kennel cough coming back to get you, huh? All right, so Rogue sneaks into Wolverine's little trailer, and he like hears her while he's driving or something like that.
Yeah, and then she's like, hoping I can hitch a ride. Yeah, and then he tells her no, and then he has a change of heart and lets her in.
Yeah.
So they're just drifting together. He's very aloof, doesn't tell her much about himself.
She does ask when the claws come out, does it hurt? And he says, every time.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
And then you kind of learn, I mean, we already know this, but like she can't touch because he's about to grab her hand to like put it closer to the heater, and she like freaks out.
I mean, I would freak out too, but
yeah,
no,
a man who has claws that come out of his hand wants to touch your hand.
A man you don't know.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, she freaks out, and yeah, it says that when she touches people, bad things happen, and then we find out his name's Logan. Logan what?
Roy.
That's what I thought of, but what's his real name?
I don't think I know his last name.
Oh, maybe he just said Logan.
Paul.
Okay, gosh. So they're just chit chatting, having a good old time in the snow.
And then she's like, you
should really wear a seatbelt. And then not a second later, a tree falls down in front of them, and he is propelled through the windshield, and they get in a car accident.
Yeah, which is kind of a good way to show like he doesn't die. Because he gets flung.
So. Yeah.
And I do like the aerial shot of him like sliding into the snow.
It looked good.
Yeah.
It looked good.
And they're attacked by.
Oh my gosh, it was so practical.
It was, yeah.
But then a fire is started in the back of his trailer. She is stuck in the
passenger
truck.
seat.
It was one of those funny things though where she was stuck, and I believe she was stuck, but at some point she was like couldn't get her seatbelt undone, and all she was doing was pulling on it rather than clicking the button, which I feel like is kind of a movie thing sometimes.
Yeah.
And I understand people panic and there's a fire, but it was just kind of, it's like, just click the button. I think you'd be fine. But this big lion, Sabretooth man.
Yes. Sabretooth.
Comes out and starts terrorizing. I think it was next door.
Oh, it was next door. Yeah. Heard a sound.
But he's oh my gosh, another mutant. And then who else was with him?
Oh, none other than Toad himself.
Then Toad was also with him. So they're fighting. Wolverine is still passed out.
Yeah.
And then before the bad guys can do anything, Storm and Octopus is what I wanted to say. Cyclops show up.
This is going to be a tough series for you, isn't it, Jordan?
This is going to be as tough as trying to get down the Star Wars titles.
What's this one called?
X-Men.
You really did have to think, though. I saw your eyes go back.
They save the day. I've always liked Storm.
Storm's great.
We can talk about Halle Berry now.
Let's do it. Take it away. What do you want to talk about?
It took me until like halfway through the movie to confirm that she was doing some kind of accent. And you said, yes, she tried doing an African accent. And that did not come across even a little bit.
No. It's very bad. But in the comics, Aurora is African.
Okay.
I don't recall what country.
Okay.
So but yeah, she is. And yeah, in this movie, she's trying to do an accent. Guess what? I'll just blame it on Bryan Singer.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
But yeah, so then Wolverine he wakes up while he's getting like an IV put into him or something like that. And he attacks Jean Grey and like runs out, and he's like escaping. He's at the X Mansion, of course. As
he's escaping, there's a voice in his head.
Yeah, I know. This is cool.
Kind of telling him what to do or where to go, and if he's leaving, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And then he ends up going into a classroom, unbeknownst to him, and it's Professor Xavier teaching a class.
And I might add, Hugh is really playing the caged animal look really well.
Yeah.
Which is part of the Wolverine thing.
Yeah.
And adding that dynamic, oh man, very cool. He's confused, he doesn't know what to do, and he wants to lash out.
Yeah.
Pretty good. And so then they're like, welcome to Mutant High. And there they are.
So that's really what this is called?
No, it's a Charles Xavier School for gifted youngsters. Yeah.
And so that's really what it's called?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah. The Xavier Mansion.
Tell me this is a comic book movie without telling me this is a comic book movie.
Yeah, that's something.
Yeah.
So
so what? So then he starts explaining how the school works or what their goal and their mission is. He gives them the classic mission statement.
He sure does.
And what's the mission statement?
I gotta stand up.
Okay.
I'm gonna stand up, so I'm just gonna lift this microphone. Well, so what they're doing, this is gonna be weird for you, but oh my gosh.
I didn't know that was an option for us.
It's just my back is killing me, and I've never thought about doing this
I would
until
have done
this
this
moment.
so long ago.
Do you want to stand up?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, all you got to do is just unscrew right down there, and then you got to just pull it up and then screw it back in. And then you're all set, and you're just like me, and we're standing. Look at this. We're putting on like a rock show now. But yeah, so the school, what they do is they find mutants by using the Cerebro, and then they are able to like train them. Because
wait, what's a Cerebro?
That's the machine he uses to find them.
Oh, okay.
And so they can do that, but to the public, it's just this is like a private school that you can go to.
Yeah.
So that's like their cover.
Yeah.
So that's to answer your question.
And basically,
on their mission statement.
he's offering because bad guys attacked them. Xavier's is like, who are you? Why would they want you? You need to stay here for your protection. You can't leave. Which, of course, Wolverine's like, no, that doesn't work for me.
When he thinks that Magneto really wants Wolverine.
Yeah.
He's going to find out later that he actually wants Rogue.
Spoilers.
They've seen it.
Meanwhile, though, Rogue has become a full-fledged student here.
Yes. And she is kind of falling for this guy.
Mm-hmm.
And,
that's kind of it for a while.
Yeah.
Truly.
Then we see, I wrote Mystique to Un-Guy.
I think what that is then we go to
UN Guy is what I wrote.
Senator Kelly gets in a helicopter and he's talking to this dude.
Sometimes
just about
my notes are so indecipherable.
He's talking to this dude in the helicopter about how like we're gonna get ours and we're gonna get the humans and or the mutants and all this stuff. And I just remember thinking when it kept cutting back to this guy and it was like, why does he look so smug? It just looked, his expression was so weird, and then he turns into Mystique, and it was like, oh, they got me.
It's so funny when you're like, why is this movie doing this dumb thing that I'm noticing? And then you're like, oh, that was intentional.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm the idiot.
Yeah. So Senator Kelly's been kidnapped by Mystique and Toad, and he is taken to Magneto's island.
Yeah.
And Magneto basically is going to make an example out of him, and he's invented this contraption that can turn people into mutants.
Yeah.
So he uses it on Senator Kelly, but we don't find out for a little bit what any kind of effect it has on him. But we can just cut to it because later he like basically doesn't have bones in his body anymore.
Yeah.
And he escapes. And he falls down a cliff but doesn't die.
Right. But what's cool, I will say there's there's the shot of him sticking his head through the bars. And there's little moments in that shot that look horrible, and then there's moments that look kind of freaky and good.
I thought so too.
Because some of it reminds me of Little Nightmares.
Yeah. Me too.
Yeah, it's so then he'll go to the beach because he like fell off this cliff and they thought he died, and then he's like turning into water. And
then he shows up to Professor Xavier because who else can he turn to?
Yeah, but before that, he walks on the beach, and it's this naked, weird-looking man, and Stan Lee is just staring at him.
Yeah, I
shocked.
almost missed Stan Lee.
And I actually, it'd been so long since I'd seen a movie that Stan Lee is in that I forgot that he's in all of these. Yeah. So I was like, oh, yay!
Yeah,
I got excited again.
Yeah.
And so then he comes back to the X Mansion, and he explodes into water.
Yep.
With Aurora.
Eventually, because the stuff that Magneto did to him is not like his body can't sustain it.
Yeah.
Before all of that, though.
Oh, but I will say before we get back to what happened before this, it's hilarious just how in Magneto's lair, like everything requires him to move metal in order to do it. So it's like metal chairs. Metal walkway that has to come up.
Well, he's got to have the upper hand.
I know, but it's just like, do you really need a metal walkway? Do you really like everything is metal? Mm-hmm. It's funny.
Before this, though, we do find out they start running some tests on Wolverine, and they find out that his entire skeleton has what around it?
Adamantium, of course, my dear.
Adamantium around it, which is like indestructible
No,
steel.
it's adamantium bones, Jordan.
Okay.
It's not around his bones.
Oh, I thought they put it like on top of his bones.
No,
But
he's got adamantium
Whatever.
bones.
So he's indestructible.
Yeah.
And they're just trying to speculate like when did and he claims that he has no memory
Yeah.
of what happened to him, which really feels like we need a movie to explain that.
Yeah. What's funny though is I think they explain most of it in the next movie. Actually.
Oh, really?
Now that I'm remembering.
Oh, and they do show a little bit of flashbacks in this movie.
Yeah.
I mean,
very
it's not
Born Identity.
Yeah.
Era
not enough
flashbacks.
to explain to
Oh
someone.
wait, Born Identity would come out after this. Interesting. Okay.
I guess Born didn't influence everything.
Nope.
So
We got to cover that series sometime.
Yeah.
But you keep pushing it
I don't
off.
know,
I
I'm
had it
just
on the
bored.
calendar at one point.
I'm just bored with it.
Yeah, whatever.
Political thrillers are hard.
Get out of
They're
here.
hard for me.
Get out of here.
Sorry.
What do you hate? All the President's Men?
That is a different type of political
Yeah.
thriller.
Point and proven.
I would much prefer just having people sit in a room and talk the whole time than the other version.
Oh, brother, get out of here. Get out of here.
Okay,
I'll finish up the
gladly.
pod.
I'm done talking about this movie.
So Wolverine's having, nightmares about flashbacks and stuff. And then Rogue comes into his room and she's like, Logan, wake up, wake up. And then he stabs her. And then after he stabs her, he wakes up and he's like, oh, crap. And then,
Why was she in his room?
I don't remember.
I understand that like he's having a nightmare.
Isn't she like walking by and she hears him
If
going,
they
oh.
even if they establish it, it's just like, I don't know, this looks bad.
Well, this is directed by one of the biggest creeps to ever walk
I know,
the face
and
of the earth.
and we're in the year 2000.
So
I'm
he's like, oh, this is normal.
sending it away from my brain. But yeah, he stabs her, and she is dying, but she touches him and
Absorbs his healing
absorbs
factor.
some of his healing factor.
So now we
So,
know what's going to happen.
Not only does she harm people, but the reason why people are harmed when she touches them is because she's sucking the life out of them. I think that's cool.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting.
It's interesting when the superpowers are a curse, more of a curse than a blessing.
Which we already mentioned in this episode, but yeah, that's the whole X-Men thing. That's
Yeah.
the best X-Men of it.
Yeah.
Because even, like Cyclops, like he has to wear this, his quartz visor, his diamond quartz visor, of
gosh.
course.
Does it
all the
look that
time.
dumb in the comics?
No, it looks awesome in the comics.
Does it look
It's so
better
cool.
than the movie?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
It
Just looks very dated in the movie.
Yeah, I think that's it. Because I think even in the newer movies, when who plays Cyclops in the newer movies?
Is it Nicholas Hoult?
No, he plays Beast, of course.
Gosh. I don't know if I know who plays Cyclops.
No, it's I am blanking on his name actually. It's the kid from Mud, Tyler
Sheridan?
Ty
Sheridan?
Ty Sheridan, yeah. He plays Cyclops.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Anytime I hear an actor is in a Marvel or an X-Men thing, it's like, well, they sold their soul.
Oh, come on.
That's how it feels. Sometimes.
Come on. I would be in one of those movies. Do you think
Yeah.
I sold my soul?
Yeah. I think you've already sold it, though.
Yeah.
By how many comics you read. Does it
Yeah.
sound like we're bored talking about this movie?
I'm not bored.
Okay.
I'm just standing and I'm trying to recover. I've been having a lot of back and neck issues the last week or so.
Save it for a therapist.
I don't have one. Yeah. So that happens, and then Miss Southern Charm herself goes out and she talks to a friend, her new boyfriend, and her boyfriend's like, "You should get out of here. They're saying that you are a menace to society, and you need to get on out of here." And she cries and she goes away. And as she goes away, we see that her boyfriend has yellow eyes. And who has yellow eyes? Mystique, of course. There's been a murder, and you are a suspect. Yeah.
So she runs away, and they need to go looking for her, but Professor X like, no, Wolverine, you can't because you're wanted. And then he goes anyway and finds her on a train. She's getting the heck out of Dodge. And they have a sweet moment.
And then, of course, Toad shows up.
Well, we're talking about their sweet moment right now.
Oh, you're right.
Have a sweet moment where he basically is like, that obviously has a fatherly presence for her.
Yeah.
That I think he fulfills the role without knowing that he needs to, you know, and
Yeah.
and she accepts the role knowing that she probably needs a parent figure. But he's like, you know, I'm not going to make you do anything you don't want to. But it sounds like these people really do want to help us. So why don't we just give them one more chance? And if anything bad happens, we'll get out.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah.
But then Magneto shows up.
I thought it was Toad.
Well, yeah, Toad shows up, but we'll get back to him. We're saving the best for last. And Magneto goes into the train. It did look like they practically broke open the train.
Yeah, it looked
when
good.
He broke it open. It looked really good. And he is, of course, is able to control Wolverine because he's made of metal.
Yep.
Adamantium, my dear boy.
Yep.
And he pushes him back. And he's kind of like, I think Wolverine says something like, take me, leave the girl. And he's like, I was never here for you, which is fun.
Mm-hmm.
And then he takes Rogue.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, and then they're fighting Toad and Sabretooth, Cyberclops and Cyclops and
Storm.
Storm.
Oh, it was cool.
I almost called her Weather.
So Sabretooth gets her, and you know he says this, you know, just such a cheesy thing like, I want to hear you scream.
Yeah.
And then cool thing though is it shows his hair becomes really staticky.
Yeah, yeah.
And she summons a storm and fights him. But then later in the movie, remember, he like gets back with her and they're fighting and he's like, I still want that scream.
Oh, I think I had forgotten he said
There
it
are
the first time.
Like classic comic book one-liners
You know what?
that are awful.
You know what? Remember how we said Joss Whedon had two lines
those,
that made the
those
cut?
are his lines.
I bet those are the two lines.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Hey, Joss Whedon did do some good work, but it is kind of sometimes I think when someone we find
what good
out
work has he done?
Avengers.
Okay.
I think sometimes when we find out that someone is like terrible, you look back on their work and you're like, oh, this is all terrible. Like when we were hearing a lot of weird things on the set of Don't Worry, Darling, I was seeing a bunch of people talking about like, oh yeah, Booksmart's like a total wreck. It's a terrible movie. It's not well directed and stuff. And I'm like, okay,
it's fun.
That movie's still a good movie.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Don't Worry, Darling yet, but it's still like, you know, we should be fair. But I do think Joss Whedon, like, he is one of those things where I did like some of his stuff. I mean, I guess I'd only seen the Marvel stuff. But now when I look back on things that he did, it's always like, oh, great. Here we go with Joss Whedon again.
Yeah.
You know, like, yeah. And it's okay to do that because he stinks. But then there's a pretty cool sequence where there are all these police at the train station and they're pointing their guns at Magneto, who has Rogue.
Oh, yeah.
But then
there's a
Charles
standoff.
Xavier has controlled the mind of Sabretooth, who is now holding Magneto and trying to kill him.
Well, he's not trying to kill him.
Or, like,
he's just
holding
him by the neck.
Yeah, and then Magneto causes all the cops' guns to point at them. And then at one point, like, he even fires a gun at a cop, and then Jean stops the bullet and is just holding it. And so it's this what's fun, and I do think the movies do this really well, is Xavier, like, his power is not something that you see him actually using it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they do a good job of making it tense without him actually having to, like, point his finger
That's
or
what
do
I want,
something
man.
like
Remember,
that.
I just said that the other day. I don't know
You
if I said it
did.
on the podcast or
I think
outside of
I'm
it.
pretty sure you did say it on. You might have said it on our
Might
Black
have said
Panther
it.
episode.
On this episode.
No, I don't think you did.
Oh, okay.
But it's a pretty decent scene. Like, yeah, this is a good movie. It's a good movie. There's good scenes in it. And yeah, I mean, that's great. And then eventually, you know, Magneto's like, if you want this to not happen, you have to kill me or let me go. Or do you have the cojones to kill me or not? And he doesn't, because he doesn't believe
have
in
the
that.
cojones.
Yeah, he don't have the balls to do it. And then they have to regroup, of course. And now it's like, we're gearing up for the end of the movie.
Let's make this last fight patriotic, boys. We're going to the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah.
Because there's some kind of UN summit happening at Ellis Island.
Yeah.
And that's where Magneto is going to do his thing, where he's going to gives some of his powers to Rogue so that she can do all of what the infecting everybody, and she dies for it. Like it'll kill her.
Yeah.
So we have Storm, Cyclops, Wolverine, and Jean Grey go to the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Xavier has been incapacitated because of Mystique and all that jazz.
Oh,
but
yeah,
we
whatever.
can skip over it.
But
so on our way there, I have to point
Okay.
out, I think this has resonated and kind of ruined costumes. This is what I'm going to theorize. I think that this line ruined costumes in comic book movies.
He badmouths the costume.
He does, which I think at the time was a cute thing to do. But I do think it has ruined costumes in movies from here on out. Because Wolverine is like, you go out on this, or he's looking at his costume, which is kind of a leathery, thing with an X on it. And he's like, you guys go out with these things? And he goes, what did you expect? Yellow spandex?
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like wink, wink, wink.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for the time, appropriate, whatever. But it does stink because I think a lot of people have taken that approach when they make these movies. I mean, even something like The Riddler. Again, I love the Batman movie. It's great.
Put one question mark on his darn body.
But I don't think the design of Riddler is good. I think it's a bad design for that character. It does work in the thing. Actually,
well, I mean,
I don't know.
It works in the super gritty, realistic world that Matt Reeves created.
But it's weird because like Batman looks like Batman and he looks cool.
Mm-hmm.
Catwoman doesn't really look like Catwoman, but neither does she.
Her ears are only when she puts her glasses up on top of her head. So technically, she doesn't even have cat ears.
Yeah, which they did in Dark Knight Rises.
They did that.
Too.
They did that in Dark Knight Rises too. But that's because in Batman we are stuck in ultra realism.
Yeah,
we're stuck. So no one. I mean, like we should probably be thankful that Heath Ledger looked the way he did. And even he was not the classic looking Joker, which at the time was so exciting that he wasn't.
Yeah. But and again, I am not bashing that movie. I like that. I saw it twice in theaters. I think it's a great Batman movie. One of my faves. But it is like I do think it's okay to make these characters look crazy, especially when they are characters that are crazy.
But not because we all know and love the little clip we got of the Joker in that movie, because we are,
oh my gosh,
we have like Stockholm syndrome with him, that that when they showed Barry Keoghan, it's like that is several steps too far on what this guy looks like.
Yeah, that
looks so bad.
Well, and it's also weird to have like the Joker looked like that, but then the Riddler just kind of wearing like a poncho and duct tape. Like what? It's a weird decision.
Yeah.
Then even Penguin, he just looks like a gangster. He doesn't even have like an umbrella.
He's got
or anything.
A little bit of a hook nose for a beak.
Yeah, that one I think though he'll be in all the movies, and I could see him kind of degenerating into that.
So in the Tim Burton Batman with Penguin.
Yeah.
Does the comic Penguin look that zany?
Well, I think it does come to runs.
Probably iterations. Yeah.
Because, remember when we watched the Batman movie, the 1960 movie? It's like, what's his name? Burgess Meredith. He looks zany and kooky and wild. And Danny DeVito does as well. And what I've seen of comics and even the video game, he looks wild.
He does in the video game too.
Yeah, he looks a little more tame, but he's still kind of wacky and has a monocle. And
yeah, they should have at least given
he
Colin
does
Farrell's monocle.
Matt, we do need a monocle on Penguin.
Yeah,
but here's what's funny: I spent 20 minutes ago. I was talking about comic book fans and making fun of them, and now here I am doing that thing.
Yeah,
but I don't know. It's all cool. I mean, it's fun to talk about. So then they go to the Statue of Liberty.
Then we get
big fight.
The other worst one-liner in the movie when Storm is fighting Toad. I'm skipping ahead.
Yeah.
Storm is fighting Toad, and he is like hanging off of a rail, and she's like, do you know what happens to toads when they're electrocuted? And then dramatic pause. She electrocutes him, and he goes flying into the water, and she says, just like everything else that gets electrocuted.
She says the same thing that happens to everything else.
The same thing that happens to everything
that gets struck
else.
by lightning. Huh? That's maybe that was Joss Whedon's line.
Yeah, I think so.
That's so bad
It was
because
really bad.
I thought to myself, what was the zinger I thought of right off the bat without even thinking? Now I can't remember.
I can't either, but it was better.
Yeah.
It's been a couple days since
like
we
they get
watched it.
fried or they get like. No, it wasn't that. It was like a pun on frogs.
Yeah.
You know, I don't remember what
They
it
say
was.
ribbit or something. I don't know. Or they croak.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
what it was. You know what happens to frogs when they get electrocuted? They croak.
Yeah.
Which is bad.
That's bad, but it's better.
But at least it's something, not what happens to everything else.
Yeah.
That's so
Woof.
dumb.
But
And it's not like he said something like earlier where he said like, I'm a frog. Frogs that don't get scared of lightning. Then maybe it would make sense. They just
I
fight
don't
for a
know.
while, and he sticks his gross tongue at her after spitting like mucus goop at Jean Grey.
yeah. But then we go to Sabretooth and Wolverine are fighting on top of the Statue of Liberty. And there's this one part when Wolverine with his claws
Yeah.
swings around the crown or part
Yeah.
of the crown.
Then
And it-
Netflix is the crown.
Yeah, that exactly. And it just really feels like in 2000, this kind of looks like a money shot.
Oh yeah,
But dang, that looks so bad today. But in like an endearing way.
yeah.
But they're fighting, and then Magneto shows up and subdues all of them, wraps them all in metal, so they
Yeah.
can't get out. But they get out.
Like Wolverine escapes by stabbing himself, which
Yeah.
is cool.
Yeah,
And then they have to stop this machine.
yeah,
And at first I was like, I did not understand how they were trying to stop it because Cyclops is sitting there and he's like, I can't take the shot. I can't take the shot. I can't take the shot. And Wolverine's just like flying up with Storm. And I was just
oh yeah,
like,
how was he flying again?
Storm was pulling him up, I think. Oh no, Jean Grey
was, yeah.
With Storm, I think he was like
I don't care.
doing a cold front in a Jersey or something.
Okay.
And so there's this metal thing that's whipping around and he
This is just kind of bad to me. It's a good for 2000, but man, this movie was boring.
the climax of this movie is pretty boring.
It's
And
so
they stop
underwhelming.
the machine. He almost dies, and then, or is it Rogue?
Rogue dies, and then he's touching her
Yeah,
to try and like give her some of
which
his power.
I like that.
That was fine.
And Christopher McQuarrie, you're welcome on the pod anytime.
Whatever. This movie is 23 years old.
Yeah.
So whatever.
And then it wraps up and it's fine.
Yeah.
I do like he goes to Magneto who's in prison and we find out that he like plays chess with him and talks with him often. And I anytime a villain and the hero play chess together, it's just like mental gymnastics.
Gymnastics, but also the Xavier's reason for doing it is just to try and inspire hope in him.
Yeah.
Which is also, I like that.
And it has a great payoff at the end of this trilogy. I don't know if you remember.
No, I don't.
But you
They
think
play giant chess?
well, you think that Magneto has lost his power, and because I think he's lost his power. And then the last shot of the movie, they're playing chess, and Xavier gets up and leaves, and then a metal piece like wobbles or
In
something
this movie
like
or
that.
the third movie?
In the third movie,
Spoiler.
yeah, you've seen it though, or maybe you haven't.
I
But
think I have.
it's just kind of cool.
Yeah.
I kind of like that.
Yeah.
But we did it. Did we?
Boy.
Did we do it?
Pretty much.
I think this is a good movie. It's dated, but it does hold up better than some movies of this ilk, as one would say.
Yeah.
So if you like this podcast, if you find it enjoyable, number one thing you do, you tell your friends to listen to it. Number two thing you do, you rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. Number three thing you do, you guessed it, you go to patreon.com/MicahMcCaw, link in the show notes, and you sign up for as little as $3 to get a bonus episode this month. And Jordan, it's the month of January, so what episode are they getting on their bonus?
The new Avatar movie.
Oh, yeah. And guess what, folks? Jordan hasn't seen it yet, but I've seen it. And Momo likes that movie. And I was probably I was planning on only seeing it once, potential for twice. I am definitely seeing it at least one more time.
Oh, good. I don't have to go alone.
Yeah, I would probably see it at 3 times before it leaves.
Wow.
I think there's potential for that to happen.
So is it going to be like with the first movie where people are just going to keep going and going and going?
I think by the time this episode comes out, this movie will have made so much money it'll be obscene.
Yeah.
I think I don't know if it can get as high as Avatar 1, but I'm not ruling it out.
Oh, they're going to try.
I am not ruling out that this potentially might be the highest grossing movie of all time.
Okay.
It is truly special, and if you haven't seen it yet, you must see this movie. And you do have to go see it in 3D. Jordan wasn't going to go in 3D, and I think I might force her to go in 3D now. Because I don't think it makes you sick because he's so good at it.
Yeah.
You know?
We'll find out.
Yeah. It's awesome, man, those whales. That's all I'm going to say. All right, we love you guys.
Peace out, Girl Scout.
And to all you Boy Scouts out there, keep on.